So how does the government decide that you're getting snatched up for the draft? The same way the Roman Republic decided for its citizens 2,500 years ago. Let's find out.
Rome didn't have a central draft board. It wasn't some event at the forum that people traveled to looking to find out if they got called up. Nah, they had something called the dialectus. It's a board of local officials that reviewed lists and decided who stays and who goes. Now, if you know anything about how we do our draft here already, then you know that's exactly how they be doing it. The way this works is wild, though. A handful of men from a county or district get a list of eligible names from their own county or district. Not military dudes, though. Like your high school principal, your barber, the dude that owns the car dealership, everyday people from around the way. Then these folks decide who does or doesn't get to go based on all kinds of shit. But for real, it comes down to their own subjective opinion. Like usually they get all up in people's business, ask nosy ass neighbors, teachers, employers, how does so and so act? Is he reliable? Does he have a medical condition? Blase, blase. You better hope someone somewhere seen you reading a lot of books and building engines in your garage. Sometimes having a high level skill set would, they let you stay at the home front or you'd be put to work on the base, far from the front lines. But let the local board find out you have a habit of daydreaming off into the distance, or you don't know how hey and hey are spelled differently, or you're always frolicking with the loose girl folk. Boy, here's your rifle. There's the trenches. Good luck, son. Look at pops and grandpops over here skeezing on the youth. It's a time-honored tradition. Wifey mad jealous, but secretly she wants some cake too, for real, for real. The son, though, this was the day this boy became a man. Yo, look at Grandma Ethel over here. You know she's judging him hard as a bitch. Guaranteed she said hussy loud as fucking hussy. These people would lose their ever-loving minds if they saw how we dressed today. Anyway, all this neighbor chooses your fate business came directly from Rome. Back in Rome, you've left your weeping mother. You've made it to the dialectus. It was just a few hills away. You could literally still see Ma Dukes bawling her eyes out. You find out they've chosen you for the Hunger Games. You're up. You're a soldier now. But what's next? Now they make you swear an oath, the sacramentum. The historian Livy said this oath transformed what would have been the acts of mere brigands into legitimate service. Oh, okay. So we're gonna do some foul shit, but it's alright because the government says so. Yeah, that sounds about right though. That sounds about right. Well, damn, that ass is like that, huh? It really is like that. The Romans had this sweet deal. Listen, your body belongs to Rome. That's it. That's the deal. That's the whole deal. Yeah, but here's the thing about humans, right? We don't like being owned, not consensually anyway. We got puppy boys and kitty girls and then pony ladies for the rich folks that can afford it and all that. We don't judge over here. Go and get your freak on. Remember though, consent is key. But the Romans said consent. What's that? Stop using strange words. And the Roman citizens did exactly what you'd expect. Some hit the race, jetted far and wide. Others would go work on these massive farms called latifundia. They were owned by people connected. And sometimes these people protected their workers from conscription. Other folks found sharp knives and played charcuterie toes, whatever they could to get out of it. This is where the Roman system starts to sound even more familiar, though. In early Roman Republic, you had to own property to serve. They called you assidui if you had land. If you were proletari, men with nothing but kids, they was like, nah, you got nothing to fight for. Fuck out of here, go home. It was about landowners fighting for their land. No stake in the game, no spear for you. But Rome kept fighting and kept catching the medals. By 107 BC, they ran out of landowners. So a general named Marius said, bet. He starts enrolling the Capite Censi. That's Latin for men counted by head, not by property. AKA broke dudes. Yeah, familiar, right? That was the beginning of the have-nots fighting and dying for the haves. U.S. Civil War, 1863. The Confederacy had the Union yoked up. Union generals were like, yo, these Southern boys really ain't playing. They looked around, they said, shit, we could do a draft. And they did. They dropped the Enrollment Act, first federal draft in U.S. history. Let me tell you something. The way folks reacted, same energy as Rome. Self-mutilation, dudes chopping off fingers, pulling out their own teeth, blasting themselves in the feet. Anything to get that medical waiver. Just like everything else in this nation, the Civil War had fine print. Getting drafted ruining your day. Hakuna Matata, no worries for the rest of your days. Yeah, just drop 300 on it. That's like 8 racks today. And some poor dude goes in your place. Rich folks really said, I'ma just sit this one out, brother. Hold up, hold all the way up. Inequality in the United States? That's crazy talk. Glad we got rid of all that inequality. New York City said, nah, we good. You keep that issue over there. But the union insisted, you'll report for duty and you'll like it. So how did New York City deal with this? Shit, we could do some draft riots about it. Summer of 1863. If you know anything about summer in New York City, it gets hot, and muggy as a bitch. It gets so hot the garbage on the sidewalk starts steaming and shit. People lose their damn minds. I swear their brains are melting. Summer in New York is some bullshit, for real, and it's done been this way forever, ever. So when the Civil War draft kicked in, people wasn't having it. European descent working class dudes were burning buildings, lynching any man darker than uncooked chicken. They already knew. The rich were going to buy their way out, and they're the ones who are going to die. They were convinced people of color were going to replace them once they were freed. And the wealthy, they wouldn't suffer nothing through any of this. On a side note, there's a dope movie set during this moment in history. Gangs in New York. DiCaprio, Daniel Day-Lewis, and Cameron Diaz, they all playing tag with hammers and knives and shit. Y'all should watch it. It's cinema. Anyway, the tippity top gets built-in loopholes and the rest get dead. Same as Rome, same as always. The wealthy strove to relieve themselves of it, as one old text put it. The poor really ain't had no choice. Vietnam, 1964 to 1973. 1.85 million drafted into the armed forces, but that was only 20% of all the forces. The rest were volunteers. That means the draft wasn't an everybody goes type situation. It was a somebody's going and it ain't gonna be me type situation. Local draft boards, them nosy ass neighbors back at it again. We're handing out deferments like Mr. Beast be handing out Savior Complex dollars. College students, exempt. Got a good job, exempt. Got a valid doctor's note, exempt. Guess who didn't get exempt though? Poors. And of course, folks of non-European descent were overrepresented. The same ones who always catch the short end of the stick. So what did people do? Same thing they always do. Draft card burning, fingers and toes getting chopped off, doing the dash to Canada. Whole towns got populated by dudes who looked at the jungle and said, nah, give me some snow. Men fled up north just like Romans fled to the desert when the dialectors came calling. I'm gonna finish up the video with a funny story about draft dodging. Y'all know Cheech and Chong, the comedian, the weed comedians. They've been around forever and a day. Basically, the people who started weed comedy. This is a funny story. Hold on, let me think about how to word it. Okay, so what had happened was Cheech was an American citizen, but he was heavy in the anti-draft movement, and the government had made it so that they were going to reclassify all the leaders of the anti-draft movement, and so that they could ship them off immediately to the front lines. That's how they were going to deal with it. So Cheech, he said, fuck that. He dipped out. He said, fuck that. He dipped out straight up to Canada. Even though he lived like 50 miles from Mexico and he's Mexican, he couldn't speak Spanish. So he was like, fuck that. I need to go somewhere where I didn't know what I'm saying. So he went up to Canada. He went to Banff, one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in my life. I've been there in person. That place is beautiful. He went up there and then fucked around a little bit. Finally, he made his way to Vancouver, British Columbia. And that's where he ran into Tommy Chong, who was doing improv comedy at like his people's titty bar. It's a funny place to do some comedies at the titty bar. But yeah, they linked up. And if it wasn't for the draft and dodging the draft, then that would have never happened. We would have had none of them Up in Smoke and none of them classic stoner comedies. Anyway, and we you know what else we wouldn't have had? Tommy Chong used to have like a fake P. He used to call it "You're in luck." It's fake P. And I wonder how many people's jobs he saved. You're in luck. Hey, anyway, that's fucking stupid. Anyway, y'all made it to the end of the video. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for watching. This is the end of part 2. There's gonna be a part 3. Part 3 gonna talk about what would happen if we had to draft right now. They try to draft now. I ain't going, but like I don't give no advice. It's all theoretical. Anyway, tune in to part 3 or whatnot. Yeah, I appreciate y'all. Peace.